Yeah, listen, huge news coming out of France in the last 24 hours. Bordeaux Football Club recently winning groups in the Champions League. The club that has had through its years players like Zidane, Papin, Giresse, Tigana, Battiston, Paoletta, Tresor, Viltord, Gourcuff, Dugarry, Smertin, I could go on, Tuameni, Vilmot, Klaus Allofs, etc., 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 is gone. They have given up their professional status following calamitous ownership decisions over the last few years. To discuss the effect of all this, I'm delighted to say we're joined by French football expert Julien Laurent, who happens to be in Paris for the Olympics. Good morning, Julien.
Morning, Julien.
Hello, guys.
I've been following this story, obviously, on Trans Europe Express on a Sunday night, but I literally gulped last night when I saw that push had come to pull, the road had met the rubber, and Bordeaux Football Club, one of the great clubs in France, is gone. What's the reaction this morning?
It's incredible, Danny, really. I mean, we expected it, unfortunately, because the last few days, the situation had gone worse and worse in the sense that the French DNCG, which is the organism that just rules French football financially, looked at Bordeaux's account. There was 40 million euros missing there. They tried to sell the club to the Fenway Group, who owns Liverpool, for example, and other investors. They just could not find the money. And the deadline was last week. And from the moment where no money was raised for the deadline, it was pretty clear that Bordeaux will be in big trouble. So first we thought they might go down to the fourth division. So from the second division where they were now, down to the fourth division, maybe the third division, but keep that professional status that you just mentioned. And instead, Gerard Lopez, the owner, decided, you know what, let's give up the professional status, which means you close your academy to start with. And Bordeaux is one of the greatest academy that we have in France. You mentioned Chouameni, Jules Koundé are the most recent graduates from that academy who are now playing for France, obviously, and one for Barcelona, one for Real Madrid. So no more Bordeaux academy. And obviously, no more professional contracts. So all the players currently under contract will be let go. Some, if they want to, can sign as amateurs, which is very unlikely.
Yeah.
And then the club will start again with only amateur players.
So what league are they going to play in?
So we're not sure yet. We think in France, the up to the third division is still semi-pro. And then the fourth division becomes kind of amateurs, if you want. You still have decent wages for some of the players, but fourth, and then below fifth, sixth, etc., etc. So we think they should start in National 2, which is the fourth division, maybe National 3. It's not very clear right now because the mayor of Bordeaux is still hoping to save the club and find more investors and new investors. And I think because it's such a big club, I think even if it's beyond the deadline that was set by the DNCG, that if there's a solution, fine, that maybe they could find a way of keeping the club as professional, and maybe in the third division, second division, maybe, unlikely, but maybe. So they're still trying to work out something, because otherwise it's a disaster.
Julien,
it's such a big club.
Julien, obviously the difficulty in getting a TV deal or a good TV deal for French clubs, which we reported on a lot here on talkSPORT, is one of the contributing factors. But two questions for you. What is really behind Bordeaux's failure? And two, could other French clubs go the same way?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the TV deal is not so much for the second division because their TV deals was agreed a few weeks ago anyway. So that TV deal that we've mentioned a lot on the shows on talkSPORT is more for the top flight. And that was a mess in itself. It's about to be sorted out, not with the same amount of money that the clubs wanted, but for Bordeaux, this is not the problem. The problem is simply with ownership. M6, which is, I guess, the equivalent, a little bit of ITV in England, the TV channel, owned Bordeaux for a long time, did a decent job there, then decided to sell and sold to some American investors who have hedge funds and things like that, like we see a lot in England too. But they were a disaster, really a disaster. Then Gerard Lopez, who has already sunk a few clubs, let's be honest here. I mean, I've got nothing against Gerard Lopez, but he's a terrible football club owner. Then arrived at Bordeaux with all those promises, and we're going to be back to the top, and we're going to do this and that. And instead, they went down from Ligue 1 to Ligue 2. They lost a lot of their key players, and even in Ligue 2, they've been a disaster. And the way he's run the club and has buried this club really is shocking. And everybody is calling for his head now. We heard Bichente Lizarazu, who's also one of the most famous players to play for Bordeaux, who went through the academy, who's from the area too. saying that he has to go now. He's still there. Unfortunately, at some point he will go, and he has to go. But for me, it lies more to him and his ownership and the decision that he took along the last few years.
Julien, moving on from the doom and gloom, you're in Paris for the Olympics, and I can see you up on the screen, whatever cream you're using. I need some of that cream because he's looking well, isn't he?
Yeah.
He looks like a film star up there with you brilliant white teeth.
Next James Bond, I'm saying.
What's the atmosphere like in Paris?
It was great until I woke up this morning and the weather is super cloudy. And obviously today is a special day because it's the opening ceremony. And for the first time ever, it won't happen in the Olympic Stadium. Instead, it will be on the River Seine here in the center of Paris, which is going to be amazing. But you really wanted the sun and a great day. And it's drizzling. It's not too bad, to be fair. It's cloudy and it's a bit of drizzle, not heavy rain. And it should be dry by the time the ceremony starts around 6:30 your time in the UK. It would be just amazing to see all those boats with all the athletes along the River Seine for 6 kilometers. So that it was great until the weather, obviously, I think dampened the mood a little bit, but it will still be great. And then for the games themselves, it would be incredible to see all those venues within the city center here in Paris with all the big monuments, the Eiffel Tower, La Concorde, the Grand Palais, the Champ de Mars. All those places, if you visited as a tourist before, you will see them now within the Olympic Games, which will make these games so special.
And on to the Olympic football, Julien. France have got Thierry Henry as coach. Alexandre Lacazette is captaining. Michael Olise is playing. Do you think France will win? And given recent events, how much will they like to beat Argentina at some stage in this in the Olympic Games?
You're right. So our rugby 17 beat Argentina yesterday in the quarterfinal, which, as you can imagine, made a lot of people in France really happy after what happened in Qatar in the football. I think this football tournament especially is quite open. We saw already Argentina losing to Morocco in a game that was really good and then really bad towards the end with the crowd trouble, etc. We saw Spain, obviously, as well as we see them as favorite. Obviously, because of the really good team that they have, because they went to the final in the last Olympics in Beijing, losing to Brazil in the final. Brazil, who are not in this tournament, because Argentina knocked them out in the qualifiers. It should be great. It was good for the French to start with that 3-0 win against the USA, although for an hour they were not the better team. The USA were really good. And then Lacazette broke the deadlock. And after that, they went better and better. Olise was outstanding for the last half hour. Thierry was really happy. So we will see, but there's a lot of ambition, I guess, and the aim is to get at least a medal.
Julien, as always, a pleasure and an education to talk to you. Thank you very much. Enjoy the Olympics in Paris. Julien Laurent there.
Looks well there, doesn't he?
Oh, you look, yeah, you're
looks like he could still play.
Yeah, I don't think he could ever play, to be sure. But not football, I don't think, Julien. Maybe I got that wrong.
No, he's played semi-pro.
Oh, yeah. Not Dean Saunders, not playing for Galatasaray. It's not the same thing at all, is it? Listen, let me remind you again, the opening ceremony is live here on talkSPORT, and then talkSPORT and talkSPORT 2 will bring you all the big events and some you've never heard of as well, which you're becoming instant experts at, because that's how it all works for all of us over the next 3 weeks, live here on the talkSPORT network. We've also got boxing for you tomorrow night. Huge fight that's live here on talkSPORT between Joe Joyce and Derek Chisora, and we'll bring you a bit about that very, very soon here on the talkSPORT Breakfast. You'll listen to me, Danny Kelly, and him, Dean Saunders.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.